And here we go. It's Drop the Mic Monday. Mike Eccleston here live once again on the Legends Podcast Network on Lenny Melnick FantasySports.com, a network that's growing more and more each day, and I'm lucky enough to be part of. Thank you to all who are listening and all those in the chat room. I have a lot on my plate today, so let's have at it. I have a question for all those who play fantasy baseball. How on earth is Michael Chavis not owned in more fantasy leagues? He's now owned in just 40% of ESPN leagues. How? The kid is now hitting .333 with 6 home runs and 13 RBIs since being called up. His power is crazy. I don't know whether it's their bats or the lack of pitching on the White Sox, but all of a sudden, the Boston Red Sox bats are white hot. They scored 15 runs on Saturday and another 9 yesterday. There was a lot of skepticism as to if Chavis was going to be called up this season. And it may have taken injuries to occur in order for him to get called up. But Chavis is proving that he belongs at this level, playing every single day. He hit 2 more home runs, both to center field on Saturday. I'm telling you guys, hitting is contagious. One guy gets hot, everyone starts heating up. Sometimes it takes that one new face to come in via trade or call up in order to get a team moving in the right direction. Now you see Rafael Devers is hitting the cover off the ball. He's been red hot as of late. Even though he's not hitting for power right now, he will. He's hitting the ball hard. He does have power. He'll start hitting the ball out of the ballpark. I'm not too concerned there. JD Martinez is hitting. Mookie Betts is hitting. Xander Bogaerts hit a grand slam yesterday. The defending champion, Boston Red Sox, were struggling mightily, but they now appear to be back in the saddle. They got the jump start they desperately needed from young Michael Chavis. I mean, if I'm the Red Sox front office, when guys start coming back, I'm not touching that lineup card. I mean, no offense. I know that everybody, in Boston, on Red Sox Nation, everyone loves Dustin Pedroia. The guy's the leader. The guy has been the heartbeat of that team for a long time now. But are you even thinking about taking Michael Chavis out of the lineup for Dustin Pedroia at 35 years old right now? I'm not. So for everybody playing fantasy baseball out there, if Michael Chavis is not owned in your league, pick him up like yesterday. Pick him up like right now. Because it's incredible. I see that I've picked him up in every single one of my leagues. I'm just like, I'm picking this guy up. Because his power, he's hitting them to dead center. A lot of these young hitters are hitting the ball to the opposite field in the center field. You don't usually see this from guys like, these young stars. For these young kids coming up, they usually want to pull. Oh, and by the way, if it wasn't clear before, it had better be clear now. Alex Bregman is a legend. He is a damn legend. This young third baseman for the Houston Astros is not only tremendous when it comes to his production both offensively and defensively, but he also has a knack for coming up big in big-time moments. He was big all year last year. He basically, I thought he was an MVP candidate. I thought he was a dark horse to win it, but obviously Mookie Betts and, Jose Ramirez and Mike Trout. I understand Mookie Betts, obviously. He had a year that was out of this world. But Alex Bregman was a low-key top, MVP candidate. Because, to be honest, the Houston Astros, they lost a lot of their, Altuve was hurt a lot, Carlos Correa was hurt a lot. Alex Bregman kept that team afloat for a lot of last year. He came up big in the playoffs. Yesterday was yet another prime example of just that. See, it doesn't have to be the 8th or 9th inning in order for it to be a big moment in the game. There are different times when games hang in the balance. This was one of them. Top of the 5th inning. Angels up over the Astros 3-2. Angels starter Matt Harvey was laboring through innings throughout the game. His pitch total doesn't tell the story, by the way, because, he was getting outs. They were just hit hard at guys, or they were deep fly balls. Bases were loaded, 2 outs. They made the change to Campadrosian out of the pen to face Bregman. 2 outs. Down 1 run. Big moment in the game. Alex Bregman was smelling blood. What does he do? Smacks a dramatic grand slam to dead center field. You could just tell, because of the big hit in that moment, that was the knockout blow. The Angels weren't coming back from that. Once again, this guy is showing why he was a dark horse AL MVP candidate a year ago, and why he should be considered an MVP caliber player throughout the league. He's everything you would ever want or hope to have in a baseball player. He doesn't strike out often at all. He works the count well. He has power, speed, is a great defensive player. He's clutch. You just feel as if he's going to come up big in a big spot. And he's electric. It's box office. He's a smaller guy. He can be fiery. He gets everyone going and believing. His celebrations. You see that stare after the home run. Everybody loves that. He's just the entire package for what I would want to be a centerpiece for my team. Remember when the Atlanta Braves didn't have starting pitching? I remember talking about not necessarily buying into their starting pitching staff. Well, there are 2 young guys who have, since then, swooped in and changed that in a hurry. One that I'm not really surprised by, and the other one I am surprised by. That's Mike Soroka and Max Fried. The 25-year-old Fried had struggled with his command at the big league level his first 2 short stints up here. He walked 20 hitters in 33 innings last season and 12 hitters in 26 innings the year before. He's walked just 7 hitters in his 38 innings of work this season. His walk per 9 rate is down by 4 walks. That is a massive improvement. See, I mean, he's always had good stuff, but that's been the biggest difference, is the fact that he's not walking as many guys. That's a big deal. Getting ahead is a big deal. To me, the most important pitch, you got to get strike one. Makes every at-bat easier. His whip is currently under 1. He's 4-1 with a 2.21 ERA and 33 strikeouts in 2019. Oh, and please take the training wheels off of Mike Soroka. He's ready to ride with the big boys. Now, I understand why they're trying to limit his pitch total because of the shoulder issue he had before the season started. But this kid is pitching like an ace right now. Back-to-back outings, the Braves pulled him at under 90 pitches when he was rolling. Last time out, I believe it was 89 pitches. The start before that, just 81. Soroka was a highly touted prospect, so this isn't totally shocking. The Braves organization knew he was going to come up and be a star eventually, but he's definitely ahead of the schedule. The kid's just 21 years old. He came up for a short period of time last year. He got hurt. I'm surprised that he's up this early. And he's been as effective as he's been. He's been incredibly efficient. He's given up just 3 earned runs total in 4 starts. And has struck out 27 in his 23 and 2/3 innings. By the way, he's another guy he's only owned in, I think it was 55% of leagues on ESPN. Go pick him up too. Soroka and Fried have combined a whip of 1. Julio Teheran threw 6 shutout innings, giving up just 2 hits yesterday in a 3-1 victory over Miami. But, I mean, we all know by now that you can't trust him, especially at the top of at the rotation. I'd see him as more of like a low-end 3, high 4 kind of pitcher. Mike Foltynewicz is the deciding factor for me. He's struggled since coming back. If he can even come close to being the guy he was last season, that will give Atlanta 5 good options, counting Kevin Gausman, to go along with that shiny lineup of theirs. Because I know that, Braves fans were talking about, the lineup. Obviously, Ozzie Albies is incredible. You watch him, I feel like he hits a home run or he has like 2 or 3 hits like every game now. He's an all-star second baseman. You see Dansby Swanson starting to come around. Ronald Acuna, even though he's kind of stumbled to start the season. Freddie Freeman. Nick Markakis. They have a ton of bats in that lineup. If they can get good starting pitching, that's the kind of Braves team that people were expecting to see this year. They're starting to play better, and it's because of their starting pitching. The Dodgers and Padres series. Now, I know San Diego isn't ready to become the top team in the NL West just yet. I mean, I know people are trying to push them because it's like, it's a new team and everybody's excited and they're young and they've got a lot of talent. A lot of talent still to come. Mackenzie Gore is lighting it up down in the minors, but I'm sure he's still at least another year away. But don't try to tell them that they're a long way away. They may have lost the series, but a 4-3 loss, a 7-6 loss, and then yesterday's walk-off win on a grand slam off the bat of Hunter Renfroe when he was pinch hitting says they're ready to at least be competitive. I know it sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but all losses aren't created equally. Yes, it goes down as a loss in the record books, whether you lose by 1 or if you lose by 25. But when you've been viewed as a basement dweller for close to a decade, and during that decade, the team that's been pushing everyone else around and has been to back-to-back World Series comes to town, it's nice for you to show them that they have company. That this is something that they're going to have to deal with for a long time. Padres starting pitcher Nick Margevicius has been getting positive results, but he needs to be able to strike hitters out. It's impressive in its own right not to strike out a single hitter in 5 2/3 of an inning. It's even more impressive to still pitch well. He gave up 7 hits and 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings against the Dodgers, against a very good Dodgers lineup. I mean, the thing is, he's playing with fire, though. He's struck out 26 batters in 36 1/3 innings this year. The funniest part of the Padres' 19-16 start is that you look at a lot of their top bats. The averages aren't impressive, so it's not like their lineup is tearing the cover off the ball. See, but I kind of view that as a positive, because I don't expect that to remain the fact. You got guys like Manny Machado and Eric Hosmer and Will Myers. They will get going. You expect them to get going. There is a lot of power there with this team. With the 3 of them, Hunter Renfroe, Franmil Reyes. I'm still not buying into the Padres being there yet. But I do know that series between them and the Dodgers are going to be entertaining to watch for years to come. Because, to be honest, the Padres are still really young, and they still have a lot of ammo down in the minors. And they didn't have Fernando Tatis Jr. in there either. He's on the injured list right now. Speaking of the Padres, something to keep your eyes on tonight. Chris Paddack going up against Jacob deGrom of the New York Mets. An excellent matchup, an intriguing matchup to watch between a guy who's coming off a historic Cy Young season in deGrom and a rookie phenom. Paddack is 2-1 with an ERA of 1.91 and has struck out 35 hitters in 33 innings. He's been dominant. I love his composure out there. I'm telling you, he looks like a vet out there. He doesn't look like a rookie. He doesn't look like a kid. DeGrom has struggled a bit to start this season. From his elbow barking to an IL trip to 3 straight un-DeGrom-like starts. But his numbers still look solid with an ERA of 3.82 and 49 strikeouts in 33 innings. He pitched very well through 7 innings in his most recent start against Cincinnati. So hopefully that's the direction that he's heading for. I would be even more excited for this game in this series if the Mets offense wasn't in such a slump. Remember what I said about hitting being contagious? Well, that can work both ways. When 2 or 3 of your best hitters all go into a funk, other guys tend to lag as well. Pete Alonso, to a lesser extent Alonso, because he still has, he hit the game-tying home run in the 9th inning of the game that went into extra innings where they lost to the Brewers. He still hit some home runs, but, he hasn't been, he's been in a slump, especially compared to what he was before. Michael Conforto and Wilson Ramos, they've all hit a skid. And what a horrific start for Brandon Nimmo. It feels like he's 0 for his last 100. Want to hear something impressive? He's struck out 41 times out of 103 official at-bats. Last time I checked, that wasn't good. He's hitting 194 this season, and he still finds a way to be at the top of the lineup. I find that to be impressive as well. There is something the Mets need to let sink into their heads. Todd Frazier is no longer an MLB starter. He's not. I know he's a hometown boy and everybody loves him. And you allowing him to go out there because he's making $8 million and waste 4 at-bats every game when your team was rolling is embarrassing. See, the thing is it's unfortunate for me to say, but it's become common. It's become like as soon as Todd Frazier came off the injured list, the Mets offense started to go downhill. J.D. Davis was hitting the ball well. He was hitting over 300. He might not have been the best defensive player, but he wasn't terrible. He wasn't bad. There was something, I don't know why they just went away from that. I could see playing Todd Frazier 2 or 3 times a week. Playing him every day, he's not that anymore. Veteran infielder Jed Lowry, who was an all-star last season, is on his way back. So we'll see if that helps this lineup get back on track. But the pitching matchup is what makes this must-see TV. Paddock versus DeGrom. That's going to be fun. There's not a hotter team, by the way, in the major leagues than the Chicago Cubs. 7 straight wins, 16 wins in their last 20 games. Just swept a very good St. Louis Cardinals team and pounded them 13-5 for good measure to put themselves in first place in the Central Division. Now, I have the Cardinals winning the division, and I'm not backing down from that because to me, they're still the best team in that division. But the Cubs and Brewers are something else. Chris Bryant, whom I expected more from the last few years, but is still a star. You got Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez hitting .316. And let me tell you something. We need to start putting Wilson Contreras into the conversation with these other top catchers. He is coming into his own. That's been the biggest difference to me offensively for Chicago. His torrid start, hitting .311 with 9 home runs, 21 RBIs, an OPS of over 1.100, 1,100. Went 2 for 3 with a home run and two more RBIs last night. He's been fantastic. Their pitching has been rock solid. Kyle Hendricks with an unthinkable 81-pitch complete game shutout. First time that's been done since Aaron Cook a decade ago. Over a decade ago. It was very Greg Maddux-like. Cole Hamels has been phenomenal. Best he's looked in a very long time. John Lester with an ERA of under 2 to this point. Jose Quintana has been solid. He pitched well again last night. And like I mentioned last week, bullpen looks terrible until your starting pitching helps them out. The Cubs' bullpen couldn't get out of their own way. They were being exposed. But that flaw is being covered up because the starting pitchers are eating up innings, allowing that pen to stay fresh so they can be at their best when they're needed. It all equates to wins. Chicago is firing on all cylinders right now, and the fight for the Central Division is on. Those 3 teams are going to be fun to watch all year long. Nick Senzel. What a start this kid has gotten off to. He was robbed of a home run. He hit his first career home run 1 at-bat later. He led off this afternoon's game with a home run. And in his very next at-bat, hit another one. So he has 3 home runs. Well, it should have been 4. And he's been up since Friday. He's only been up since Friday. He has a stolen base. He's worked the count well. He's gotten on base and has played well in center field. The thing is that, today he struck out, I think it was 3 times. So I feel like when you start hitting home runs, especially as a kid, you get a little bit home run happy. Just get back to what you were doing. Don't try to hit a home run every time. That just means trouble for you, especially as a young hitter. He's definitely a top of the order kind of hitter. The Cincinnati Reds offense has awakened. Like I said earlier with the Chavis thing in Boston, there are times where you see like Cincinnati had like the worst offense. They were terrible. They couldn't score runs. Now all of a sudden, since Friday, look at what they've done. They have 12 runs today. They scored 5, I think it was 5 yesterday, 9 the day before, and 11 the day before that. Their offense went from one of the worst in baseball to now all of a sudden they're averaging like 8 a game. 8 or 9 a night. Sometimes that is like the spark that an offense needs, that a team needs. This was a Cincinnati team that was expected to take steps forward this year because of all the moves they made on both the offensive side and, in the pitching and in the rotation. Adding a kid like Senzel to a team that, who's Scott Schebler, he's replacing Scott Schebler, who was hitting like 130. It can galvanize the troops. There's a whole new attitude now. On to the NBA. I talk a lot about Kawhi Leonard, and deservedly so. He's up there in the conversation for the best in the game of basketball in my eyes. But staying in this series, Joel Embiid needs to find a way to get healthy. I feel like going into every game, I hear something different as to what's wrong with him. Whether it's his knee or another sickness. The Philadelphia 76ers need this guy to be 100%. If he's 100%, there aren't too many teams that can really compete with that starting lineup. You could argue them outside of the Bucks. You can argue them the best team in the Eastern Conference because I believe that the Bucks are the best team in the Eastern Conference. He was awful in Game 4. Really wasn't Embiid. 2 of 7 from the floor. 11 points. 8 rebounds. 7 assists. And they only lost by 5 points. Safe to say that when he was on his game at 100%, Philly would win this series pretty handily. I think they would win in 6. Honestly. Leonard is dominant, but when you have Embiid, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, two-way stars, Tobias Harris, J.J. Redick, there aren't too many teams who can compare to that, especially when we're talking about starting lineups. This series is tied at 2 because of Leonard's dominance and Embiid's lack of health. By the way, for Toronto, Kawhi Leonard is going to be gone. Kawhi Leonard is going to be gone. Because they don't have anyone else other than Kyle Lowry, really. I mean, they have some size. They have guys like, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka. But I'm talking about star power. There is none outside of Kawhi Leonard. I like Siakam. He's probably going to win the most improved player. But if they lose this series, I don't see Kawhi Leonard coming back, and they're going to wind up with nothing. But the best series of the second round so far has been the Blazers and the Nuggets. Bar none. Not one game has been decided by more than 8 points. Game 3 went 4 overtimes. An absolute classic in Oregon. Then again, last night, it came down to the wire. I do a lot of talking about the Blazers. Let's get some Jamal Murray talk in here. This is a bad boy. 34 points. 10 of 20 from the field. 3 of 7 from 3. Automatic from the free throw line. He's really started to come into his own this year. Everyone talks about Nikola Jokic. And understandably so. I mean, he's a top player in basketball. An MVP candidate. Who doesn't get as much MVP credit as he should. Because people don't really pay attention to the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. But he's a big man who can shoot and pass. I mean, to the level that he can, he's a great passer. An excellent passer. The Nuggets are great defensively. This is an evenly matched series. I hope it goes 7, and I expect it to. And for the Blazers' sake, they need Damian Lillard to have a Dame game. He was big in the fourth quarter last night, but last time I checked, a basketball game is 48 minutes. Denver is a top team who plays sound defense with a star in Jokic and a kid who is coming in Murray. Portland needs more from Lillard if they want to move on to the Western Conference Finals. CJ McCollum he's gone above and beyond in this series because the thing is he's not the superstar. CJ McCollum has been big time so far. And his Cantor, kind of in and out. He needs to be better in order for them to win this series. It's funny that at the end of the day, the Nuggets converting on their free throws and the Blazers not as much was the difference in this game. That's the kind of series it's been. You got the Warriors and the Rockets. See, this is the series that everyone has been waiting for since last year. Not the NBA Finals, the Golden State Warriors, and the Houston Rockets. Now, I'm still of the mindset that Houston needed to win one of games 1 and 2 in order to win this series. But they won the other night in Houston. Another must-win game for the Rockets. They need more from Chris Paul. James Harden and Eric Gordon are doing everything they can. Harden had his best game of the playoffs so far. Paul was given a massive contract. He's considered a star. He's paid like a superstar. Like a top point guard in the game. 4 of 8 from the field and 7 assists isn't what we should expect to see from a star point guard in a game like that. He needs to be more involved in Game 4 tonight if Houston plans on knotting this series up at 2. And Steph Curry, of course, the point guards, he needs to hit his shots as well. There has always been questions. There have always been questions about Curry in big-time games. Him going 8 for 32 from 3 in this series isn't helping his case at all. That's 25%. I mean, for other guys, I'd understand that. It's, he's off. This is the greatest three-point shooter in NBA history that we're talking about. I'm not sure if it's his finger that I knew was bothering him, but the Warriors need him to be Steph Curry. Klay Thompson hasn't been great either. This has been Kevin Durant. And I know, I was never the biggest KD guy, but Kevin Durant is proving now more than ever that this is their guy. I mean, they've always had the shooters, but right now they haven't had those shooters. They've needed KD to go above and beyond, and he has on a consistent basis. Then you got the Bucks-Celtics series. Game 4 tonight. Must win, to say the least, for the Boston Celtics in Boston. Kyrie Irving is shooting 39% from the floor. Think about that for a second. Kyrie is shooting 39%, not from three, from the floor. There are 4 players on the Bucks shooting better from three-point range. That's bad. Jason Tatum played better in Game 3. Boston played well as a collective group. But right now it's just that the Bucks are better. They're just a better team. They're bigger. They're better shooters. In order for the Celtics to win, when that is the case, when both teams are on their game, Kyrie needs to be the closer that he can be. That has to be he has to go above and beyond. And he has to be able to close when the game is close. He's got to be that sniper. He's got to be that kind of player. 8 of 22 from the floor and 2 of 8 from 3 isn't going to cut it. If the Celtics want to be able to pull off this upset and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second straight year. And if they were to win this series, I could see them moving on to the NBA Finals. Because to me, these are, I'm not a believer in the Sixers and the health of Joel Embiid, because that's a big deal. And I'm not a big, believer in Toronto as a team. So to me, the winner of this series is going to wind up going to the NBA Finals. Tonight is a huge game if Boston wants a shot at getting to the next round. Because the Bucks are an excellent team led by the Greek Freak, who is arguably the best player on the planet Earth. That's all I have for today. I'd just like to thank everybody for listening, all those in the chat room. I'd just like to say I'll talk to you guys on Friday. Stay good looking.